Okay, good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone, and welcome to this live stream where we're going to talk about how important change management is when it comes to AI. Let's give a few seconds just because we want to be sure that everything is working so you can see as well, the live stream starting. Okay, few seconds and then I think we can go. So, okay, it should be fine. I think we are live now. Okay. Yes, here we are. Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome. So I would say let's start with just a brief round of introduction. My name is Matilde D'Amelio, and I'm the CEO of Sophia Training and Consulting. What we do is that we are basically doing a number of live stream events just to talk about different topics which are important when it comes to AI implementation. And for the topic of today, which is one of the most discussed topic at the moment, which is change management within AI, or generally speaking within any digital transformation project, we have with us Dr. Sarah Mardle. So I will just hand over to you and ask you to just give you a brief introduction.
Thanks, Mathilde. I'm so delighted to join you today. I'm based in Cambridge, and it's really great to be having this conversation with you, because I remember back a couple of years ago when we started talking about AI and business transformation and digital transformation. So it doesn't feel like that long ago that we were discussing that, and so much has happened in that space over those last few years. I'm the CEO and founder of Alma Business Consulting. I specialize in supporting organizations that are going through change, transformation, and I support the leadership teams and the people that are supporting those businesses in really executing those transformation strategies, specifically focusing on the people side. So I'm a leadership expert. I've been working in the healthcare industry in particular and the medtech industry for the last 25 years. I've had the pleasure of working in some startups that have grown to very, very large organizations. So I know what it looks like from 20 years ago before AI existed. And I have seen so much change, and also have had the experience of working in very large corporate organizations and seeing what it takes to actually move and shift business of a very, very large size. At the moment, I'm working with a client with 50,000 employees. So the changes are very different, and the strategies to implement the digital transformation need to be adapted to the sizes of the business.
Lovely. So thank you very much. So what I would say is that we have some questions. We're going to keep it conversational. We have some questions, but also if any of you has questions, please let us know in the chat, because we're going to use it also as an opportunity to address any doubts that you may have. Okay. So I was with a very simple question, which is, when each time that we're having like discussion with companies, which can be on training or around solutions, one of the main elements that we realize is that actually employees are very scared. they are super scared. And why do you think this is happening? So what do you feel that employees are scared? And I will add another question. Do you feel that there is more worry around AI that compared to other technologies that we've seen in the past?
So I'm a neuroscientist from many, many decades ago. So that is a really good question that I've always wondered, and I think there is something about how our brains work and how we want to adapt to change. So, the change management field of expertise is far much longer than how AI has been around. And in general, human beings, we do like things that are fairly steady and enable us to be really, really effective. So actually embracing change can feel really uncomfortable in general. So it really is something to do with, how we have to interact with people and with the psychology of change management, that will unlock, those potential fears, and discussing them and embracing them and addressing them is really, really important. Otherwise, you won't move forward. I think the big challenge with AI is it's rapidly evolving. So we're not talking about a point of time where we can say to people, that's it, you're on board. Actually, things are changing so quickly, and the technology is evolving, and there are new products out there that we might be interested in trialing or in embracing, and that gives a level of uncertainty. So actually, it is not a one-time point where you say, that's it, we've embraced AI. We have to recognize that actually it is going to continue changing for the better. But with that comes human challenges in terms of adapting to that and embracing it in an organization.
So is the speed of the technology, which is quite unique, no? Compared
It
to
is.
other technologies
It is.
in the past.
And I think also, to be fair, I met you on a training course specifically on AI, and the scientist in me really enjoyed the aspect of understanding how AI worked. But also enabled me to feel more confident about using AI, because I really understood how it works. And there are certain types of people like me who really need to go under the bonnet to really understand how it works in order to feel comfortable using it and understanding the limitations, but also the risks. And I think that's made me far more comfortable since we met, several years ago, in actually understanding, okay, how can I leverage various types of AI to support me and accelerate my business, for example. But I also know the risks. So I think that's where we also need to be mindful that we have different individuals in our organizations who are interested in different aspects of AI and who might need more tailored strategies to get them on board, depending on the department that they work in, or the type of motivations they have, or how they like to communicate. So all of that needs to be taken into account. So it's not one size fits all in terms of applying the change management process when it comes to AI, I think.
Yeah, and I'm very happy that you mentioned it, because, so for example, what we noticed is that, so we started to receive quite a lot of requests for like doing awareness training within organizations for employees. Some of this awareness were more on how the technology works, so people, they can better understand it, and some of this awareness were around ethics, ethical challenges. And when we prepared the session, the leadership team was sometimes worried, because we're like, oh, we're going to present all these, ethical problems, or challenges which the technology has. But actually, when we delivered the session, the feedback that we got were amazing, because people, they really, really appreciated starting to have a better understanding of, okay, this is where the opportunities are, this is where the challenges sit, this is the true state of the art. So instead of being kind of scared, but hearing all these stories, they were kind of reassured, and they really liked this, transparency and, awareness, because then they could also better understand, okay, how can I use it? What are the best practices? How much is it impacting my work? I have to say, I was really surprised myself, but it does fit very well with what you just shared.
Absolutely. I think if you imagine, a long time ago when you were trained to do presentation skills, it's very clear that when you're giving a presentation in your audience, you will have people who are listening to what you say. Therefore, your words matter. There are people who are visual, and where actually the content on your presentation will be really important for them to visualize the communication. And there are people who would prefer a pre-read, for example, because they are a more reflective type and they want to take the time to read about what you're going to talk about before joining your session. And it's a little bit like that we need to approach. So actually having tailored strategies and thinking about the different populations of people you want to influence is a really good way of making sure that you're actually delivering what they are most interested in and most going to be engaged with.
So variety, like be sure that you have a diverse,
Yes.
spectrum of activities,
Yeah,
elements, so you can engage with a
absolutely.
bigger
And that,
audience.
exactly. So, like you were saying, for a particular group of individuals, actually having a lot of awareness and a lot of getting in the weeds of the detail is going to be really important, and that's how they will feel they've really understood AI. So, I could imagine, a group of scientists or engineers will want to be far more involved in the why and the how, and actually demystifying how it works is going to be really interesting to them, and that's how you're going to engage them. But for somebody who might be in finance, you might
Mm.
be really flagging to them, the advantages of using AI in speeding some of their reporting capabilities, and automation is going to be really important to them. So I think that's some examples where I've seen some really good success in rolling out AI for specific departments.
Yeah, that's actually very good, very, very, very good, because yes, you need to think about how to make it work for you, for your people, for your sector, for the country as well. When you're operating, there are countries related differences which have to be taken into account. So there is not one solution fits it
No,
all.
an industry. So,
Yes.
as I said earlier, I work very closely with a lot of healthcare businesses, and that means you have to think about compliance. So, at the moment, I'm looking at, how do we have a look at using AI for looking at clinical trial documentation, which are very lengthy but really, really heavy in the compliance field. And you really need to make sure that, yes, you can leverage AI, but you also understand the limitations and where actually an expert in regulatory affairs is going to be needed to look at those clinical trial documents.
Yeah, and this is also very important because there are often what happens is that there are some sectors, healthcare, or I'm thinking also banking. I'm thinking also about public governmental institutions where regulation is very important. So
Yeah,
taking into account the governance, the compliance, it's extremely important to do it quite early stages. But if I can add, so sometimes there is kind of resistance to change because we have quite a lot of experience with banking, and in banking, one of the early comments were, "Oh, but we are a highly too regulated industry. We cannot change." So
mm,
sometimes, I think you need also to play this kind of psychology, because sometimes the regulation and compliance is kind of used as a mental barrier to say, "Oh, we're not going to change." But I feel that in the world of AI, there is not much luxury of hiding behind compliance and regulation. You need to embrace it, of course,
yeah.
yeah, at a different speed and different way depending on the industry. That is a journey that all companies they are going through. So I think it's good for employees and leaders to just make peace with it and just try to understand how to make it work for them.
Yeah, and geographies are very different. I've noticed certain countries are far more curious, and
Mm, true.
generations. So if you have actually startup organizations with people who have already used AI, maybe in secondary education and at university, actually they're far more open to using AI not just as a tool, as a co-pilot, but also integrating that into their product development. And actually, they see that as really the norm, nearly. Whereas people maybe of more of my generation, we might have some catching up to do, and we need to also be able to be humble and say, I don't know this. I need to go and find out, or I need to leverage on my team of experts to actually educate me and share the benefits of AI.
Yeah, I completely agree. Geography and geography matters a lot. We see a lot of difference as well, for example, between Asian countries and also European countries, because we do quite a lot in Asia. And Asia is a very digital, part of the world. They're embracing technology very fast, and while European, I think we also have like a cultural difference. We have different concerns, so we wanted to assess the technology on a different level before embracing it and testing it. So I agree that geography plays a huge role.
Yeah.
I would like to step to the next level of question, because we always talk about employees, but in companies, I feel that we don't talk enough about leaders, change management with leaders. And I was referring back to what you said at the beginning, which is, AI is evolving extremely fast and it's very difficult to catch up. Now, for leaders, it's extremely challenging because they're kind of in this middle position because they are as well affected by it. They are as well worried maybe by it, but they also have employees to deal with. So, what do you feel about it? So, how leaders can be supported in this kind of AI journey.
So I actually support leaders very much in that space, and sometimes actually coaching is a really great place to start, where you can have open conversation and display a lot more vulnerability with somebody who's external to your business and be able to actually flesh out what your concerns might be and what you can do about it. But I think in general, I've found that the leaders who really succeed are those who also accept that they're not going to be the expert in AI. They are curious, they're engaged, but they also do not feel that they need to know absolutely everything. So really understanding, like I just said, all the ins and outs and intricacies, but they show curiosity and engagement with the process rather than things themselves and sort of hoping it goes away because it just won't. And if anything, actually, that's a lot more risky to the business if you're not engaged, because your employees might start using AI in a way that is not compliance, or actually breaching because people want to use it and don't know how to do it in the proper way, may start to use it in a fashion that actually is it could be a huge issue. I'm thinking GDPR, but also confidentiality for an organization. And I know that that's a big fear for leaders is loss of control. So actually having that engagement with people and setting some clear boundaries and why they're important is a big piece that they have to lead with. They have to actually get some skills in understanding AI, understanding the limitations, and being able to talk about it and explain where they're going as an organization using AI.
Yeah, and I remember I saw like one survey from PwC, if I remember correctly, which said that almost 70% of employees that were using ChatGPT, even allow it or not. So it's better to give people best practices and give them clearly like recommendation. These are the tools that you need to use. These are the best practices for using it. This is what are the do's and what are the don'ts. Because if you just hide under the carpet, as you mentioned, it won't go away. People that will still use it, in one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a question also from Ismail, which I wanted to share with you. What are the most important indicators that there is resistance from the senior management team?
Oh, from the senior management team. I've had that question a lot from actually employees, but from the senior management team, typically I would say senior managers tend to be, a lot more open within their group about, within their peers about the challenges that they face, because they need their leadership team to support each other. So I guess if the question is from an external perspective, then obviously you need to be within the circle and to be, part of that group of people to understand. So having conversations with these people. If you're talking about whether it's a colleague and you're within the senior leadership team and you have doubts whether the leadership team is really engaged, I think having these conversations and also displaying where you might not be so sure, often gives permission to people to actually say what they're really honestly thinking. So sometimes it's about leading by example and saying, you know what, I do have some concerns over this. And then you might have actually a conversation with people going, oh, me too, actually. I think you're right. And this is what we're going to do about it, next steps. So having these conversations at board level, at leadership team meetings, and being open and discussing that as a team, I think is really, really important.
And I get that sometimes it may be more difficult for senior leaders. So keeping it closed door, it may actually help now maybe to have a more open and honest conversation. So people in this closed door environment, they feel more free to express, or say
Yeah,
maybe their concern or the fear, or even what they are thinking at the moment. So just for the other also members to understand what is the chain of thought, because sometimes what you can find out is that it's just because there is not a good understanding, maybe also of the technology itself. So because there is not a good understanding, that is what is generating resistance to change, what may
exactly.
generate misunderstanding.
Yeah, and often what's really helpful then is to be able to say, okay, we do feel as a leadership team we don't have a really good understanding of the tools that we're or the technology that we're thinking about implementing. Let's bring in an expert. Let's bring somebody to give us a masterclass, for example, to upskill ourselves. So then we really understand a position, then we can really formulate a strategy, and then we can go out to the wider group, to the wider organization, and have good conversations, feeling quite equipped to understand what we're dealing with. That can be really, really helpful because certainly, as I said, for me, I feel a lot more comfortable embracing AI because for me, I really had to go through a process of understanding exactly how it works and what's the difference between AI and large language models. For me, that was really essential. I did not see the difference for quite a few years. And that really, for me, didn't feel comfortable as a leader when people were talking about it. So I needed to actually have enough knowledge to feel more comfortable talking about it. And then I think leadership teams then can be agents of change by being champions and by really understanding, what they're dealing with and putting a strategy together. And that can be leveraging with people like you and me. It doesn't need to be something that they need to worry on their own. Actually, bringing in some experts who really know and understand the intricacies better than you do can be a really good way of going forward.
Yeah, and master classes as well, we found that they can be quite effective.
Mm.
Also, the senior leadership team, because they can be very informative, but they can also trigger quite a lot of conversations. So
Yeah,
it's kind of a win-win situation because you have nothing to lose. It's kind of this more relaxed setting where you can learn, but
yeah,
also you can share from
absolutely.
experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And then you can tailor it to be, specific to your company. So having a masterclass for your company might mean that if you're a healthcare company, you are going to be talking about compliance a lot because you are going to be working with individuals who completely understand what it is like. So that makes it a lot more relatable for the whole organization and the culture of the organization as a whole.
Absolutely. We have a question from Lucas, so I will come to you. So, how leaders can make sure the widespread use of large language models within an organization is communicated with clients or customers transparently?
With what? Sorry, the first word was that.
So it was how basically companies can be sure that the use of large language models within the organization is communicated with clients or
Sorry.
customers transparently.
Um, a lot of communication and different media. So I think making sure that you're not using just town hall meetings, for example, to talk about it, but you're using different employee groups, for example, or newsletters, and inviting people to little master classes, for example, and explaining it to them if they're particularly interested. So going back to what we said just earlier, not one size fits all, but actually understanding the population of people that you want to communicate with and tailoring your strategies of communication accordingly, and obviously leveraging on what's worked before. So if you know, for example, that you have in previous organization, we had quarterly strategy meetings, which were large groups where all the employees were invited to actually exchange, ask questions. That was a great forum for having that engagement and being able to clarify the message and then receive feedback quite quickly as to whether the message was clear or whether actually it needed refining. So it is a dialogue. It's not a monologue. It needs to be active, not passive.
And what about the communication with customers? Because I think that was one of the concerns as well from Lucas. So, organizations that are using large language models internally, how do you inform your customers? How do you communicate to your customers? Oh, yes, we're using it. This is how we are doing. How to make this communication effective?
That's a really good point, because I think it's quite trendy. It is a hype. So I think so many companies I have seen, I support a lot of entrepreneurs, and they do say, oh yes, we have AI as part of our products, and it can be very appealing, but it can also create a false sense of yet not clarity if you're not sure what's the value that you're bringing to your clients. So really articulating
That's
why it's going to be of value to them, whether it's an efficiency gain, whether it's a financial value proposition. Is it going to be different? How is it going to be different from the competition? But really, what's in it for your clients? Why? What problem are you actually addressing that they are currently experiencing that you can resolve with AI or partly with AI?
Yeah, I think this is so much on point, because sometimes what I've seen is that companies, they are communicating outside, that they are embracing AI more for internal purposes, more for shareholder, let me put it this way, reasons, just to show we are an AI company, but they're struggling to communicate what is the value added, what
Yeah.
is the value that they're actually creating for clients. So I think also be sure that the narrative, the messages are clearly addressing these sorts of value added element. I think is very important. I
Yeah.
have one last question because of the 3 minutes, and which is linked to it. And just because I saw that Lucas that asked the question is operating in the med tech sector, so I feel that when it comes to sensitive sectors such as healthcare, as part, the change management, it also includes as well the communication with external people. Because I feel that, for example, if you are a client in the healthcare, you want to know how the company is embracing AI, also because you may be worried, So also having this communication, not only to give people, okay, what is the value added, but also be transparent, because in some certain industries you need to have this level of transparency with the clients to also build trust with them. So do you feel that these sorts of transparency in the communication with external clients is particularly important now in the AI wave?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it depends whether you're using AI for your internal processes.
Mm.
So for example, for accelerating the product development of a medical device, for example, and how are you making sure that you're complying with the right regulations while still leveraging on AI? Or it could be on the actual product you're developing, and you're integrating AI in it. And in that in itself, you need to understand the regulations on how to make sure that it is going to be safe and effective. And software as a medical device is a whole area which in the last 10 years has absolutely boomed. And with that has come additional much needed regulation to make sure that actually we are integrating software as a medical device, and we might be integrating AI in a medical device, but it needs to be making sure that at the end of it, we are putting products on the market that are safe and effective. So patient health has got to come first. And with that, if you keep that focus at all times and remind people that, yes, there might be some restrictions internally in how you can use it, but it is for the benefit of the patient, and it is to make sure that you are complying with whatever are the applicable laws and regulations, not just of your country, but of your client's country as well. So if you're thinking of CE marking a product, you're thinking of the whole of Europe. If you're just focusing on UK, then you're thinking about UKCA, but often organizations need to think globally about their regulatory strategies.
Lovely. So thank you very much. So we'll say we are on top of the half an hour. So do you have any final comments, maybe top 2, top 3 recommendations, companies that are dealing with interesting but maybe also challenging, adoption of AI solutions?
I think keep the communication open, and display enough curiosity, but also a little bit of vulnerability, and ask people for help if you're not sure. That's a really good mindset. And have a go. So that growth mindset, I think, is it comes through all of the coaching that I do with my clients. Is have a go, and see what happens. So don't wait for it to happen to you. Be an agent of change. Make that first step. And I guess the second one is leverage on experts like yourself, like me, when you need them. Don't be afraid to reach out to external support in order to feel that you're being skilled up into that area, because then you will be making a huge difference to your organization much quicker. And as you said at the beginning, so many changes really after AI pilots do not come to fruition. And actually, it can cost a lot of time and money for an organization if you don't do it properly. So actually calling on experts can be a really great way to accelerate that transformation.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you for your time today. And thank you very much, everyone that joined the session and asked questions. That's a wrap for today for us. We're also now taking a break for the summer. We're going to be back on the 23rd of August, where next live event is going to be around AI within the real estate. And we're going to see how AI can be implemented in this quite interesting sector, which is experimenting already quite a lot. So thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you everyone, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Bye.